My daughter's laptop wouldn't stop beeping. That's what I remember most from that morning, 3 days after we buried Amanda. The sound cut through the silence of her apartment like a knife. And when I finally found the source, hidden in her closet behind a stack of design portfolios, my hands started shaking so badly I almost dropped it. The screen showed a calendar reminder. Dad, if you're seeing this, I'm already gone. Password, redfeather2024. Check the hidden folder. I'm so sorry. I stopped breathing. Amanda had been dead for 72 hours. The police called it a tragic accident, carbon monoxide leak in the garage while she was working late on a client project. My wife Patricia was still sedated at home, unable to process that our only child was gone. And here I was, standing in Amanda's home office, staring at a message that made no sense. If you're seeing this, I'm already gone. She knew. Somehow, my daughter knew she was going to die. My first instinct was to call someone Patricia, the police, anyone. But something in Amanda's words stopped me. The formality of it, the precision. Amanda was always careful, always thoughtful. If she'd set up this message to find me, she had a reason. I typed in the password with trembling fingers. The laptop unlocked, and a folder immediately opened on the desktop. Just one folder, labeled with a single word, proof. Inside were subfolders, dozens of them, financial records, photos, videos, text message, screenshots. My stomach turned as I clicked on the first document, a life insurance policy I'd never heard about. Amanda's policy, through her design firm. The beneficiary line made me squint to make sure I was reading it correctly. $2 million, payable to Kyle Montgomery. Kyle, my son-in-law, Amanda's husband of 3 years. The man who'd called me sobbing at 2 a.m. to say he'd found her in the garage, that he'd tried CPR, but she was already cold, that he couldn't understand how this had happened. I sat down hard in Amanda's desk chair. $2 million. That couldn't be right. Amanda was a freelance designer. She made decent money. But she wasn't wealthy. Why would she have a policy that size? And why wouldn't she have mentioned it? But even as I thought it, I knew the answer was in this folder. Amanda had left me a trail. I opened the next file. It was a screenshot of text messages. Not from Amanda's number, from a number I didn't recognize. But the contact name made my blood run cold. K, do not answer. The messages were between Kyle and someone saved as D. They went back months. I scrolled to the oldest ones, and the room started to tilt. K, got her to sign the policy. She thinks it's just standard coverage through her LLC. D, $2M for accidental death? K, yeah, double indemnity clause. If it looks like an accident, we're set. D, you sure you can do this? K, I've been planning it for 6 months. Trust me. I couldn't move, couldn't process what I was seeing. These messages were from February, 9 months ago. 9 months of planning. 9 months of my son-in-law living with my daughter, eating dinners at our house, talking about their future, all while plotting to kill her for insurance money. Who was D? An accomplice? A girlfriend? I kept scrolling. The messages got more specific, more detailed. Talk about carbon monoxide detectors, how to disable them without leaving evidence. Discussion about Amanda's work habits, how she often stayed late in the garage she'd converted into a studio. Comments about the old water heater down there, how easy it would be to create a malfunction. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the mouse. I wanted to stop reading, wanted to close the laptop and pretend I'd never seen this. But Amanda had left this for me. She'd known. Somehow, she'd discovered what Kyle was planning, and she'd tried to stop it. The next folder was labeled Video Evidence. I clicked it open and found 3 files. The first was dated March 15th, 6 months before Amanda died. I pressed play. The video was clearly from a hidden camera. The angle was low, like it had been placed on a bookshelf. The footage showed Amanda's garage studio, but no one was in frame. I was about to skip ahead when I heard voices. Has to look completely natural. Kyle's voice. He walked into frame, and my heart seized. He was on his phone, pacing. No, I already told you. The detectors will be malfunctioning that week. I'll replace them right after with new ones. It'll look like we just had old equipment. There was a pause, while whoever was on the phone responded, "Yeah, well, I can't wait forever. I've got the policy." She extended her studio hours works till midnight sometimes now. It's perfect. We just need to wait for the right night when Patricia's out of town visiting her sister. Patricia, my wife. He'd been tracking her schedule too, planning around when we wouldn't be immediately nearby to interrupt. "Look, I know it's risky, but $2 million is worth it. And you'll get your cut like we agreed. Just keep your mouth shut and let me handle the details." The video ended. I sat, staring at the black screen, my mind completely blank. This wasn't some paranoid theory. This was Kyle, the man who'd asked me for Amanda's hand in marriage, who'd seemed nervous and sincere, coldly discussing her murder like it was a business transaction. I opened the second video. This one was dated July 22nd, just 6 weeks before Amanda died. The camera angle was different, positioned to capture the doorway to the studio. The timestamp showed 11:47 p.m. Kyle entered, looked around to make sure he was alone, and walked to the corner where the water heater sat. I watched him crouch down with a toolbox. For 10 minutes, he worked on something behind the heater unit. When he stood up, he was holding what looked like a small part, something he'd removed. He pocketed it and left. The next day's footage showed him returning, reinstalling whatever he'd taken, testing it, nodding to himself with satisfaction. Then he'd pulled out his phone and texted someone. "Did a trial run. Works perfectly. Odorless, undetectable. She'll never know what hit her." The third video made me physically ill. It was dated September 3rd, 3 days before Amanda died. The footage showed Amanda herself, walking into the studio late at night. She moved carefully, quietly, like she didn't want anyone to hear her. She went straight to the water heater and examined it closely, taking photos with her phone. Then she pulled out a small notebook and started writing. She was documenting everything, collecting evidence. She'd found out what Kyle was doing, and instead of confronting him or calling the police, she was building a case. But she hadn't moved fast enough. The video continued. Amanda looked up suddenly, startled. Kyle appeared in the doorway. From the angle, I could see his face, but not hers. He looked angry. "What are you doing?" His voice was sharp. "Just working." Amanda's voice was steady, but I could hear the fear underneath. Lost track of time. At midnight? In the dark? I was just leaving. There was a long, tense silence. Then Kyle stepped aside, and Amanda walked past him out of frame. The video ended there. 2 days later, she was dead. I don't remember the next few hours very clearly. I know I kept going through the files. There were more text messages, Kyle discussing the payout timeline with Dee, making plans for how they'd spend the money, even looking at properties together. Properties he planned to buy after my daughter was dead. There were financial records showing Kyle was drowning in gambling debts, $300,000, owed to various casinos and private lenders. Some of the messages referenced threats, people who wanted their money soon or else. That's why he couldn't wait. He was desperate. There was a folder of photos Amanda had taken, Kyle meeting with a woman I didn't recognize, the two of them at restaurants, at a hotel, kissing in a parking garage. Dee wasn't just an accomplice. She was his girlfriend. Probably had been for over a year. And then I found the audio file. The last thing Amanda had recorded, dated September 5th, the day before she died. I almost didn't click it. Wasn't sure I could handle hearing her voice. But this was what she'd left me. This was why she'd set up the laptop to find me. So I pressed play. "Dad." Amanda's voice was soft, shaky, like she'd been crying. "If you're listening to this, then I didn't make it. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry I didn't tell you sooner. But I needed proof first. I needed to make sure I wasn't crazy, that I wasn't misunderstanding what I was seeing." A long pause. Background noise of her breathing. "Kyle has been planning to kill me. I found the messages 3 weeks ago. He'd been careless, left his phone unlocked. At first I couldn't believe it, didn't want to believe it, but then I started looking closer. The water heater, the insurance policy he insisted I get, the way he's been tracking when you and Mom are out of town. It all fits." Another pause. The sound of her moving, maybe pacing. I installed cameras. I documented everything. I thought about going to the police, but his uncle is Detective Morrison in the precinct. He'd probably warned Kyle, and without concrete proof of an actual attempt, they might not be able to do anything. I needed to catch him in the act. But Dad, her voice broke. I'm scared. I think he knows I know. He's been watching me differently the last 2 days, waiting for something. I'm going to Mom and stay with you guys tomorrow night. I'm going to bring all this evidence and we're going to figure out what to do. But just in case something happens before then, I set up this laptop to alert you. All the proof is here. Everything you need. A shaky breath. I love you, Dad. I love you and Mom so much. Tell her I'm sorry I brought this person into our lives. I really thought I loved him. I thought he was good. I was so wrong. Silence. Then, if something happens to me, make sure he pays. Make sure everyone knows what he did. Don't let him get away with this. Please. The recording ended. I sat in that office until the sun went down. Just sat there, playing the audio over and over, looking at the evidence Amanda had so carefully compiled. My daughter had known she was in danger, had tried to protect herself. And I'd missed it completely. Hadn't seen any signs. Hadn't noticed her fear. The last conversation I'd had with her was on September 4th. She'd called asking if she could come stay with us for a few days. Said she needed a break from work stress. I'd told her, of course, we'd love to have her. Come over anytime. She'd never made it. On September 6th at 11:17 p.m., Kyle had called saying he'd found her in the studio. By the time paramedics arrived, she'd been dead for at least 2 hours. Carbon monoxide poisoning from a faulty water heater. The detectors in the garage had mysteriously failed that night, old batteries, the fire inspector said. Just a tragic accident. Only it wasn't an accident. Kyle had made sure Patricia was out of town that week, visiting her sister in Sacramento. He'd made sure I had a Rotary Club dinner I couldn't miss. He'd created the perfect window, and then he'd murdered my daughter while I was across town making small talk about municipal budgets. I called Detective Maria Rodriguez the next morning. Not Morrison. I didn't trust anyone in Kyle's family. Rodriguez had handled a fraud case for our accounting firm years ago. She was thorough, skeptical, and had a reputation for not letting cases go. When I showed her Amanda's laptop, she went very still. Mr. Harper, she said quietly, I need you to not touch anything else. This is now evidence in a murder investigation. What about Kyle? He's been calling constantly, saying he needs to go through Amanda's things for the funeral arrangements. What if he finds he won't? I'm going to his house right now. And Mr. Harper, your daughter was incredibly brave. This evidence, it's airtight. The next 48 hours were a blur. Rodriguez brought in the FBI once she saw the scope of the fraud. Turned out Kyle's insurance scheme wasn't his first. There were 2 other suspicious deaths of young women in other states, both married to Kyle under different last names, both with large life insurance policies. The man had been running this con for 8 years. His girlfriend, Diana Perkins, broke within hours of questioning. She confessed everything, how they'd met online, how he'd told her about his business plan, how she'd helped him research his targets and set up fake identities, how she'd been promised $500,000 from Amanda's policy. The evidence from Amanda's laptop, combined with Diana's confession, was enough. Kyle was arrested and charged with first-degree murder, insurance fraud, attempted insurance fraud in 2 other states, and a dozen other charges. Patricia didn't believe it at first. Couldn't accept that the young man who'd been so attentive at family dinners, who'd helped me install new gutters on the house, who'd talked about wanting to give us grandchildren, that this person had killed our daughter for money. But I showed her the videos, the text messages. Let her hear Amanda's audio recording. And I watched my wife's face crumble as she realized we'd welcomed a monster into our family. The trial lasted 3 weeks. I attended every day, sat in the front row, and watched Kyle try to maintain his grieving widower act. His lawyer argued that Diana had acted alone, that Kyle had been framed, that the evidence was circumstantial. But the prosecution had something better than circumstantial evidence. They had Amanda's meticulous documentation. They had video of Kyle tampering with the water heater. They had his own text messages planning the murder. And they had Diana's testimony, walking the jury through every detail of how they planned and executed. The jury deliberated for 4 hours. And they came back. Every single count came back the same. Guilty. Kyle got life without possibility of parole. The judge, an older woman who reminded me of my own mother, looked at Kyle during sentencing and said something I'll never forget. You murdered a young woman who trusted you, who built a life with you, who would have done anything for you. And you did it for money you never even got to spend. You underestimated her intelligence, her courage, and her love for her family. She outsmarted you from beyond the grave. I hope you spend every day of the rest of your life thinking about that. Kyle didn't react, didn't show any emotion at all, just stared straight ahead as they led him away. That was 8 months ago. Patricia and I are still learning how to live in a world without Amanda. Her studio remains exactly as she left it. We can't bring ourselves to pack it up yet. Sometimes I go there and sit in her chair, surrounded by her design work, her sketches, her carefully organized supplies. I think about how she must have felt, working here in the evenings, knowing her husband was planning to kill her in this very room. I think about her courage. At 29 years old, faced with the knowledge that the person she'd married wanted her dead, she didn't fall apart. She collected evidence. She built a case. She protected us, even after she was gone. There's a folder on her laptop. I haven't opened it. It's labeled letters. I know what's in it. Amanda wrote goodbye letters to everyone she loved me. Patricia, her best friend Sarah, her grandma, just in case. They're all dated September 5th, the night before she died. I'm not ready to read mine yet. Maybe I never will be, because reading it makes it real in a way. The trial, the evidence, all of it hasn't quite managed. Reading it means accepting that she knew she might not survive, and that she spent her last night writing to say goodbye instead of running, instead of hiding, instead of doing anything to save herself. But she did save herself, in a way. She made sure Kyle wouldn't get away with it, made sure he'd pay for what he did, made sure that if she couldn't survive, at least there would be justice. I started a foundation in her name, the Amanda Harper Protection Fund. We help people who suspect their partners are planning to harm them. We provide resources for documenting abuse, for safely gathering evidence, for connecting with law enforcement. We fund hidden cameras, safety deposit boxes, legal consultations, whatever they need, because Amanda shouldn't have had to investigate her own murder alone. She should have had help, support, someone to believe her when the danger wasn't yet obvious, when it was just a feeling, a suspicion, a few strange text messages that didn't quite make sense. Last week, we helped our 17th person escape a dangerous situation. A young man whose girlfriend had been slowly poisoning him, making him sick enough to need constant care so she could access his trust fund. He'd found suspicious Amazon orders, done research, installed cameras, just like Amanda. But unlike Amanda, he made it out alive. Patricia and I met him at our monthly foundation meeting. He thanked us, crying, saying he didn't know what would have happened if he hadn't found our website. Didn't know if anyone would have believed him. And I told him what I've told all of them. My daughter believed you. That's why we're here. Sometimes I wonder what Amanda would think of the foundation, whether she'd be proud or horrified that her death led to this, whether she'd want us spending our retirement investigating domestic threats instead of traveling like we'd planned. But then I remember that audio recording, her voice, scared but determined. Make sure he pays. Make sure everyone knows what he did. We did that. Kyle will die in prison. Everyone knows what he did. But we didn't stop there. Because Amanda didn't just want justice for herself. She wanted protection for everyone who came after her. The laptop sits on my desk now. I've made copies of everything, sent backups to our lawyer, to the foundation's board, to trusted family friends, just in case. But the original stays with me. Sometimes late at night, when Patricia is asleep and the house is quiet, I open it and read through Amanda's notes, her observations, her careful documentation of a man falling apart, showing his true self, revealing exactly what he was capable of. She was so smart, so thorough, so brave, and she saved her own life in the only way she could by making sure her death wasn't in vain. I still can't go into garages without my heart racing. Can't look at water heaters without feeling sick. Can't watch crime shows or read mystery novels anymore because the fictional deaths feel too trivial, too clean. Nothing like the messy, terrifying reality of watching evidence of your daughter's murder unfold on a laptop screen. But I can keep going. can keep building the foundation, can keep helping people who find themselves in the nightmare Amanda lived through, can keep making sure that her legacy isn't just about the way she died, but about all the people who lived because of what she left behind. The calendar reminder still pops up on her laptop once a month. I never disabled it. It says, check in with Dad. Remind him you love him. Tell him you're proud of him. She set it up months before she died. A reminder to herself to connect, to show appreciation, to not take family for granted. Now, it reminds me instead, reminds me that Amanda is still here, in a way. Still looking out for me. Still making sure I don't forget what matters. I hope she knows wherever she is that I got her message, that I found the proof, that Kyle paid for what he did, that we're helping people because of her. I hope she knows how proud I am of her, how much I love her, how grateful I am that in her darkest moment, she thought of us and left us a way to find the truth. The laptop is beeping again, another reminder. This one says, Dad, remember, you're stronger than you think. Keep going. I love you. So I do. I keep going. For Amanda, for Patricia, for every person who needs help recognizing the danger they're in before it's too late. And sometimes, late at night, I swear I can hear my daughter's voice, not from the recordings, just in my head, saying what she always said when I picked her up from school, when I helped her move into her first apartment, when I walked her down the aisle. Thanks, Dad. I knew I could count on you. I just wish I'd been counting on her sooner.